Hello folks and welcome. So Kali Linux is not everybody's cup of tea. It's used for computer security, forensics, that kind of thing. Some people call it ethical hacking. So I'm going to give you an overview of Kali Linux for the folks that are curious or just starting to learn. And also what is in those menus. I'm going to give you an overview of Kali Linux today. Again, not everybody's cup of tea. I'll give you some tips and tricks, talk about some documentation you can refer to, a lot of the tools, and just generally giving you tips and tricks. I'll even show you how to create a shutdown now icon. These you've got to be careful with. It shuts down your system, no questions asked, and you normally need to save your files before using something like that. I'll also show you how to create a simple one like this. A lot of folks know how to do that, but I'm going to show you that nonetheless. And also, I call it the poor man's web-based icon. I'll show you how to create a web-based icons in a couple seconds using a couple of keystrokes. That's what I mean by poor man's. But in either case, folks, I'm going to start with system information. I'm going to be using Xfce. So on my previous channel, I used to use this quite often. If I can type it correctly. Let me make this larger for you. So anyways, folks, Kali Linux 2023.2. I'm Icelandic, so sometimes my words get a little mixed up. Hopefully you can understand me, but more importantly, just a little joke there. But yes, I am Icelandic, but more importantly, I will continue now. This is Debian-based Xfce desktop 4.18.1 and 6.10 series kernel, and this is a 64-bit. So I'm filming in 1920 by 1080 today. My video will have timelines and chapters, and I will just say welcome, folks. I can also run a couple of different commands for you for system info, but I'm just going to use Alt and F4 and continue. Now I am going to make a pit stop over at DistroWatch to give you information about Kali if you're not too aware of what Kali is. And I'm going to resize stuff on the fly. I'll talk about some of these features a little bit later. And I'm going to make a pit stop over here, and I'll enlarge that on the fly. All right, I don't use the popularity factor on DistroWatch, just as an FYI, but Kali Linux is Debian-based out of Gibraltar. The default desktop is Xfce. The installer does offer you the Plasma GNOME desktop as an FYI. Data rescue, security, forensics. Some people call it ethical hacking. All right, but more importantly, their website is kali.org. You can click the download sections and then follow the directions if you want to try this yourself. So another distribution is very similar to this. I'll just make mention of that one. Let me scroll this back a little bit. Is Parrot. There's many others, but I'm just going to stop after this. So Parrot is also used for security and forensics. And their desktops are Mate and Plasma out of Italy, Debian-based also. When I show you the menus, I'm going to just make reference that, or at least make you aware that when you install this, and this is an installed copy, not a virtual machine, is they will install some links up here for you in your web browser, Firefox. So Kali Tools, Kali Docs. Now the tools you can look, they're all clickable, okay? And you'll see what I'm talking about in the menus a little bit later. So for you folks that are learning, and some of you folks already know how to use some of these tools, but are just curious to see what's in this particular distribution. Exploit database and Google hacking database, and then offset. Okay, so I'll give you a couple of tips while I'm in here, and I'll give you a couple of tips moving later forward. Resizing the innards can go from 30% all the way up to 500. What exactly am I doing here? I'm going to be doing the exact same thing in the file manager later, is I'm holding down my control key on my keyboard while scrolling on my USB-based mouse to make this resizable. I have to be below this line though. I have a whole bunch of videos on my YouTube site that shows a little bit more about tips and tricks, but more importantly, I'm just going to hit close. What's another command for close? Alt and F4, and I'm going to continue. All right, so that was basic system information. Let me start with the panel and then I'll walk through the menus. Starting in the corner, we have the multifunction key of shutdown, restart, and etc. I'll show you how to make one of those toward the end of this video along with this icon. Alright, the lock screen and the time and calendar thing, battery information on my wireless toys. I have a keyboard and mouse, and this will be the notifier and the volume thing. Alright, what is this tool? Task Manager. Also resize that to full screen if you like. And the tools are kind of dark, based on the theme that installs by default. And I'll walk through some of those. I'm also using a non-standard mouse pointer today. It's yellow, just for highlighting purposes. And I'll show you where I installed that, if you're curious. Right click, panel, preferences. A lot of these tools are standard Xfce stuff, because this is an Xfce desktop. But for the folks that have never done this, you can resize the panel this way. I don't recommend turning that off. I recommend leaving that on. So you can do the intelligent hide or auto hide and all that goody stuff, appearances. And for the folks that like to rearrange the furniture, I do recommend screenshots. And you do have that tool up here. Okay, so it's called SC, screenshot. I'm only going to talk about this once and I'll continue. For the folks that like to play, hopefully you got a good memory in case you move stuff around. If not, do a screenshot. Entire screen makes for a big screenshot. Sometimes the wallpaper or background is very colorful and makes for a bigger file. Active window is usually the best, at least in my book. Select region is another choice. Capture mouse pointer or cursor with or without. Again, this pointer is non-standard. The one that you get with the system is a black one and a white one. That's all you get. It's two. That's usually sufficient though. I'm going to hit cancel. You get the idea on the panel preferences. Alright, workspaces, standard terminal box, and also root terminal emulator and PowerShell. Firefox I already opened. Let's move on. Text editor is mousepad. Little shortcut to your file manager, which is Thunar in this distribution, and I'll come back to that. I'll give you some tips in there also. Minimize all open windows, and then I'll talk about the Kali icon. It's got a very nice search feature. All these tools that you see in here, there's references on that those web links that are up there. I'm going to walk you through the menus, really not going to click on much. I'll talk about certain things, but in general, just be aware that most of these tools you can find information on those web links. I'm just giving you an idea what's in the menus. So starting the boring process, let me go through this stuff. I will make a couple of pit stops with some things. Settings Manager would be one of them. Here's your appearance, styles, icon sets, font size. The default I believe is 11. You can certainly increase that to whatever you want. Dots per inch, you can also play with that. And also the scaling, be careful with that one. And there's one more setting, double high dots per inch. 2x makes things really big. In general, most of this stuff is standard Xfce. For the folks that like to play with their buttons, you can drag these elements around. Alright, moving along, I will make a pit stop here at display and just make mention of the fact that I can film in 4K, but I'm using 1920 by 1080 for default purposes today. My refresh rate's at 120, most of your standard ones are 60 Hz. But mouse and touchpad, I'll briefly stop here for a second. This is the only mouse pointer you get. That one and Windows 10. These two are installed in your USR Share Icons folder. These three here are installed in my dot icons folder. When I get into the file manager, I'll briefly talk about that. Where do you get extra mouse pointers? If you're a subscriber, you can go to my About section, scroll down below, there's some links there for you. There's one nonprofit website called gnome-look.org that has over almost 800 of these things. Also themes. Anyways, moving along. I'm using this for your attention, so let me make this bigger while I'm in here. Alright, so you'll see that most of the stuff is standard stuff with the exception of the Kali tweaks. So if you install this thing, go investigate that. This is an installed copy. This is not a virtual machine. Okay, this is not running it off the stick either. I have this fully installed. Walking through the menus. All right, usual applications. Again, I am just going to scroll over this stuff. All my videos have timelines and chapters. I will occasionally be making mention of certain things and maybe some trivia along the way. A lot of people wonder why people use Linux. Well, Linux does work. And here's some trivia for you. So the Mars rover on Mars, what kind of operating system does it use? I'll let you think about that. All right, I installed Simple Screen on VLC. I also installed a couple more apps. One of them is INXI and NeoFetch for system information. Office, other. Another piece of trivia is what the supercomputers on the planet. What kind of operating system do you think they use? So supercomputers on the planet, and what the Mars rover uses for an operating system. You'll find it's the same, just a different derivative. All right, I've been around computers for a very long time. All right, so I've been around Linux for over 25 years, been around computers for over 30, so let me continue now. DNS, Domain Name System Analysis, IDS-IPS, I know I could say that. There's that Icelandic coming out of me. Some of the developers also have very cute icons. I really enjoy that. Again, I'm just giving you an overview, really, of what kind of tools are in here. A lot of you folks are learning, and a lot of you folks already know these tools, but at least I'm giving you an idea what's in here. There's some fuzzing tools for you, and some voice over IP, and web applications. Lots of colorful icons. I love some of these, especially that one. That one's funny. Database, password cracks. I love the Medusa one. I'm always glad that developers have a sense of humor too. You know, we all need that once in a while. Right? Right? All right, 802.11. Well, okay, wireless. We've come a long ways from A, but I believe the latest is Wi-Fi 6, which is AX. A lot of people still use Ethernet, and here's another trivia question for you. Who developed Ethernet? I'll let you ponder that one. You can wiki that. I used to work for that company. I also used to do lasers and stuff in the 80s, so fiber optic is also becoming very popular, even with home users. Continuing on, like that one, bully. All right, continuing on. You know, the computer world has changed a lot. I've seen a lot of Linux distros come and go, and also tools. DNSShuff, and you know, nothing stands still, let's put it that way. And for the most part, it's progress. But you'd be surprised at what Linux is used in. Most of your home routers use Linux. Also, your Android phones are based off of Linux. Yeah, Linux has a lot of things that it touches. Supercomputers, Mars rover. All right, I'm done with the boring menu. Hopefully, if you wanted to go through this again, you've got the timelines and chapters. You can reverse the video. All right, so what's on the bottom down here is system settings, and then another logout and multifunction key. So you got one of those here, one of those here. Right click on the screen, and one of those here. All right, so I went through the menu. I went through the panel bar. Let's talk about a couple of the icons. This is pretty standard stuff. This is my backup drive. If you have internal drives, they'll be mounted. And maybe I'm going to skip over trash can and file system and open up the whole folder. File manager for this distribution is Thunar. Standard file manager for most Xfce desktop environments. All right, I'm going to show you a couple of my tricks, and then I'll just show you the standard ones. I'm pretty sure most of you folks are familiar with this, but more importantly, I'm just going to make mention of it for the ones that are not. Resizing icons on the fly. That's the smallest, and that's the biggest. I'll make this full screen. Smallest to biggest. I'll show you what I'm doing in a second. Let's do the conventional way. You can click zoom in and out in normal size, or you can use the keyboard equivalent. Hold down the control key and hit the plus to make it bigger, or minus. You can also press the control key and hit 0, not the O, 0 to make normal size icons. Control 0 looks like that. Holding down the control key, plus, or holding down the control key, minus. You probably hear me pounding on that keyboard. All right, resizing it my way, I can go from dinky to very large in, in a heartbeat. I am substituting the plus, the minus, and the 0 with my scroll wheel on my computer mouse, while holding down my control key, scrolling forward, scrolling backward, scrolling forward, scrolling backward. That's all I'm doing here. And then kind of in between to get it to the size I want. All right, so I can do the same thing with these thumbnails. And I got these wallpapers off the internet. And here's a screenshot of Callie, for instance. And let's take this, take a look at that guy. I'm gonna hit the space bar. It's kind of funny looking. And I'm just cycling through some of these images. Alt and F4. Okay. So lots of things you can do with your file manager. You can also right click and bring in your own image and set it as wallpaper, or background, as some people call it. Lots of different names people call things. Mouse pointers, mouse cursors. Speaking of, this yellow one here is installed in a hidden folder in your home directory, or my home directory. My user for today is Callie23. Control H is very common. I'm going to resize this on the fly. The Control H is very common with modern Linux file managers to activate show hidden files and folders. Just wanted to point that out. On some Linux distros, it auto-generates that folder if you click Themes. However, if you don't have a .icons folder, you can create it yourself. You can throw your mouse pointers in here. Mouse cursors, these guys. This is radioactive. Okay, I'm going to minimize this for a second. I'm going to open up my settings. The ones that you get from the system, Adwaita and Windows 10, are installed here. Let me resize this. So this is the Callie regular system, USR, share. I'm looking for the eyes. So lots of folders in here. Is this one? Where is the minimized version? All right, so Adwaita is this one. Windows 10 is that one. The USR share icons folder, I used to show on my previous channel how to put these mouse pointers in here. And you can also. You just have to have root permissions, because this folder is owned by root. So to add and remove any files in here, you need to have root permissions. That's why it's a little bit easier to install this over here. You don't need root permissions here. This is your local folder. It's owned by whoever the local user is. In this case, Callie23, which is a made-up name. All right, with that said, continue on. All right, there's one more option down here. It's called Callie Tweaks inside of this. Other than that, most of this stuff is standard Xfce stuff. All right, Alt and F4, and I'm going to continue. So I went through the menus, and I went through the icons, and I showed you the file manager. So let's right-click on the desktop and create a launcher. The first one I'm going to do is one of these. A lot of you folks know how to do this, but this is for the folks that do not. Type in LOG, not LOH, LOG, third item, logout. Create twice, once, twice, done. Put that icon wherever you want. I'll stick it next to the shutdown now. There's a big difference between these two. This one does this. I don't want to double click on that one because it'll power my system down immediately and shut down my system without asking any questions. So if you're going to use a key like this, I'm going to show you how to create it. But if you're going to use this, just save your files first. So I'm going to show you what the command is in here first. All right. So the command is shut down now. Shut down lowercase space now. And all you got to do is right click, create launcher, type in whatever name you want to give it. Use shutdown now, it's probably recommended, and then put in the command. And then you can click the no icon and type in SHU if you want the same one. It's this one right here. or you can use that one, or any other icon for that matter. So that's how you create a launcher. Don't forget to hit finish that. So all you need is a name and a command and an icon, or no icon. That's all up to you. So one more time. I can't demo this for you because it'll terminate my video in a heartbeat. But more importantly, the actual command is right here for you. You can try this yourself. Just save your files before playing. Shutdown space now is the command. All right, now I'm going to show you how to create what I call a poor man's web icon. Right click, create URL link, universal resource link. You can copy these from a web browser also. So I'm going to do one for Amazon. I'm going to just use the word A instead of typing Amazon. Comments are optional. The URL, you can open up a web browser, copy the link and paste it in here if you like. I'm going to do it manually. www.amazon.com. All right, if I typed it in properly, it will work. Do I want to keep the icon, or do I want to select something from the system? Maybe the monkey. How about if we look for an icon? Well, it does have an Amazon, and don't expect all your websites to do this. All right, nonetheless, it goes to Amazon.com, and this opens this up in Firefox. All right, so I can do the sign in, and Firefox is going to take care of my login information. I can still resize stuff on the fly using the same method I did in the file manager, holding down that control key while scrolling on my computer mouse. Once I get it to the size I want, I need to be underneath this area right here. See this area right here, my bookmarks? I need to be below that for resizing. If I point this up here and try to resize, nothing happens. As soon as I move my mouse pointer down here, I can start resizing. Because I'm holding down the control key right now with my hand, and while scrolling up and down. As soon as I point this up here and do the same, nothing happens. You can try this on your own. All right, but more importantly, when you get it to the size, let go of the control key. Now this will remain in 140%. You can scroll normally. A couple more tips for you. Control T, a lot of you folks know how to make tabs, but did you also know you can close tabs instead of using that? I'm going to show you a quick way of doing that. I'll make the first tab DistroWatch, the second one Kali, and I don't know what I'm going to put for the third. How about Expedia? All right, so we have different links up here, right? Well, I'm going to close them out of order, and I'm not going to use the X. What I'm going to do is I am going to, let me find an area where it has some white space. Here we go. So my mouse pointer, or mouse itself, has a scroll wheel, right? Underneath that scroll wheel is a switch. It's called a middle click. Some of you folks may not have this on your computer mice, but a lot of you folks do and do not realize you have it. Listen very carefully. My microphone is close to my mouse. I'm pushing straight down on my computer mouse and it makes a click. Okay, that's called a middle click. And I'm going to use that to close these. So I'm going to point right in the middle of this window, this Kali Linux penetration window, and click. It's closed. Now I'm going to close that one. Now I'm going to close this one or this one. Which one? What happens when I do the last one? I'm not hitting the X, folks. I'm doing the middle part. It closes the web browser. Moving along, create folder, create empty file, open up terminal, open your file manager in root mode, new window, arrange desktop, desktop settings. Pretty general stuff, but here's the standard wallpaper. You can of course go and get your own wallpapers and put them as wallpaper. Menus and icons. Don't forget you can resize these guys and turn them off. Right-clicking, applications, you got all the little tools right here at your fingertips. Same thing as in the standard menus. All right, logout key and about. So this was Kali. And you can see the rest of the information there. Alt and F4. Thank you for watching.